A new class of rookies will soon be inducted into the WNBA, and we are going to talk about who you need to keep eyes on. Plus, we've got some updates, unfortunate updates for the New York Liberty, but we have a feeling they'll be able to persevere. We'll talk about all of that and more on this crossover between Tempestagi Talk and Gotta Get Up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. All right, women's basketball fans. Welcome to a special live stream. This is our preview of the 2025 WNBA Draft. I am Erica L. Ayala. We have Roberta Rodrigues and Brian Fleurantin in the house. Let's start with Brian. How you living, homie?
Feels good. It's been weird that there hasn't been much Liberty things to do recently. So now that we're gearing up for the season, it feels like we're going to start heading back into overdrive. So it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. And Roberta, we know you're a little under the weather, but so grateful that you joined us. What's good in the Emerald City?
Hey, I was talking to you before we started here. It's such a beautiful weekend. I did get a pretty bad cold, but I feel that, I'm towards the end of it. It's going to be a big day tomorrow here in Seattle because second top 4 pick, I think, since Stewie. So it's going to be a big day. I'm very much looking forward to it. And yes, I'm a little under the weather. Sometimes y'all are gonna see me muting myself because I'm gonna be coughing. But I did not want to pass on this talk because it's gonna be a fun one.
No, well, we appreciate it. Not ghosts with the jokes. Listen, between Brian and my set, we have enough light for both of us. Like, we just need to blend the screens because this hotel light. I was talking to her about it. I was like, "Yo, this hotel light is it's not giving." But hey, we are dedicated, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Not sickness or bad light will keep us away from talking women's hoops. Brian, I want to come to you first, though, because I believe since the last time we recorded, we got the official news. Now, I am almost positive that I said on our last podcast, hey, even if Hamilton is 100%, just act like she's not. Let that sis rest. Let her come off the bench. And then lo and behold, we get the news that she will be missing a significant amount of time, pretty much the whole season.
Yeah, on the official release, they mentioned that the surgery recovery is going to take 5 to 6 months. And then if you game it out, the earliest she'd be back is late August, and the regular season ends like the second week of September. So there's a very good chance that she misses the entire regular season. And best case scenario, she'd be back by the playoffs. And then you run into the situation where you're having to sort of incorporate yourself on the fly in the postseason. It's different this year because it's not 2 home games to start. It's 1 home game. You hit the road, and then if there's a game 3, you come back home. So the context that she's going to come back into when the playoffs start is going to be very different if she does make it back for the first round or so. So it's going to be really hard. And I think it's tough because B has worked through so many injuries. I think she's had at least 3 or 4 knee surgeries since she's been in New York, and she's always found a way to bounce back. So I think when she does return to the court, she'll pick up where she left off. But I think even when she's not playing, I think her being around will be very helpful. I think back, now that we're talking about it, to 2022, when she underwent surgery after the first week and a half of the season. She was out for 4 months, but she was still there every game. She was there coaching up the team. When the Liberty went through that 7-game slump in 22, she was still providing support. And then they started to pick it back up. And then when she returned, that was the final push they needed to make the postseason. So I think her presence is going to be very valuable, even when she's not on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we saw that they brought in Natasha Cloud, of course. We know that Rebecca Gardner is going to be back and looking to make an impact on this roster. But, I do think that this Liberty squad, I was just, speaking on another show, but I do think this Liberty squad, even for the players that we know have been invited, it's going to be a tough roster to make. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how New York moves forward. Before we go over to Roberta and start doing kind of what we're hearing about the draft, I want to stick with the New York Liberty for a minute, Brian. What we know about Benijah Laney Hamilton is that she's had to be the anchor of the rock defensively. I think Stewie started picking up some of that as well. We've talked about that a lot on the show. Do you think that the New York Liberty has enough of kind of that dog mentality, specifically on the defensive side, now that we know Laney Hamilton is going to be out for a significant time?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they'll be able to offset her absence with the return and some implementation of Beck Gardner. When we last saw Beck in her full season in 2022, she was an all defensive caliber player. So you know what she's going to bring there. Natasha Cloud, I think we talked about it in the last episode that we had. She provides so much optionality on defense. You can have her guard 1 through 4, and you can still be able to maintain your defensive success. So I think Tosh Cloud really being a big part of this team, I think on both sides of the ball is going to be very valuable. And I think also it's a bummer that we won't see Benijah with this pairing, because I think Leonie Fibich is a player that's going to be really valuable this year. Like we see, like she's a player that has possibly the second longest wingspan on the team after Brianna Stewart, and she's very heady. She knows how to defend. She knows how to play passing angles. She does a really good job. And I think now that she's in her second season, coming off a fantastic playoff run where you saw her confidence grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, I think that this is going to be a big launching pad season for her. So I think that even with B's absence, New York has enough sort of options and backup plans left to really be able to make it work. Like that's part of the brilliance of how Jonathan Kobus put this roster together. It's okay, one of my big dogs is down. I can bring somebody else in who can bridge the gap. Someone needs to do a little bit more. Okay, we have a good bench that can pick it up. A player like a Kennedy Burke, for example, is going to be someone to count on a little bit more. So I think that for New York, they have a lot of good avenues available to them, and even without like the heartbeat of the team, so to speak, they still have more than enough talent, excellence, and togetherness to really sort of push through in her absence.
For sure. And we'll talk a little bit more about the New York Liberty when it comes to the draft, but we'll do that last because they literally have the last pick, Brian. So
you see that at the office.
So we ain't got to really talk about them too much. Now it's the opposite for the Seattle Storm, who will have whoever goes after Paige Beckers.
Yeah, exactly.
But before we do that, because I do want us to just kind of talk a little bit about the draft as a whole, Roberta, I'd like to hear from you. Putting the number 2 pick aside, where is the Seattle Storm roster as it stands right now, and where do you see some of the glaring holes or just opportunities?
Yeah, so I think one thing that is very important is that we've had the opportunity to hear from Felisa Ria in these past weeks about what the team, where her head's at, where the front office head is at when it comes to the Seattle Storm and their 2025 season. And one thing that stood up for me that she mentioned twice is that they are building a team that can win right now. They want a championship team. They want a team that can win, and I believe that they are doing a good job with putting pieces together. Of course, that losing Jewel Lloyd and now Olivia Miles dropping off the draft kind of like threw them caught them off guard. But if they use if they are able to use the tools that they have on their hands to fill that gap, which right now, in my opinion, their biggest weakness is the shooting guard position. They are set uh, with a passer with Skylar Diggins-Smith. They have a small forward in Gabby Williams who is amazing, and then you have Neko Gumake and Ezzy McGregor playing in the paint. So those are really good pieces, but without that solid scorer who's going to spread the floor and help them with shooting, they're going that's going to be a liability for them. And with the way things are going with the draft, it seems like they are not going to fill that role with the draft, but they definitely should look into it. It's going to be a tough roster to make. To They have Mackenzie Holmes, who they got in the draft last year, and some other players who are coming in for the training camp. It's going to be competitive. I feel like there are some solid positions. There are some solid names who are definitely making the roster, but I think that it's going to be a hard roster to make. And whoever they pick up in the draft, it's going to impact greatly what they already have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And again, we're going to talk about what we're hearing, what a lot of other analysts are saying in a moment. But let's just remind folks what the actual order is of this draft. So, yes, we are expecting a certain UConn Husky to go number 1 overall. But if that is the case, then that UConn Husky would go to Dallas. Dallas has the 1 pick. Seattle has 2, 3, 4, and 6 for the Washington Mystics. So not to make it all about the Mystics, but if ever a team was rebuilding, baby. And we know, of course, Elena Deladon has retired since the last time we hopped on the mic. So that's another wrinkle for the Mystics to figure out. And then you have Golden State Valkyries at that 5 spot. Connecticut also has a few picks back to back at 7 and 8. LA has that number 9 pick. They also they have the 9 pick, and Chicago, Minnesota, and then Dallas rounds out 12. No pick at 13 that would have gone to the Vegas Aces. So let's talk about the first round in a moment. But I think it's interesting, and I see the comments about Cloud. Now, we did talk about Tosh Cloud and what she can potentially bring defensively a little earlier, Damien, but we can circle back to that. But we're going to talk about the draft. You mentioned Olivia Miles, Roberta doesn't come to the W. AZ Fudd not coming. No Lauren Betts. And I just want to talk about this briefly because, should we, Brian, be concerned about Notre Dame and South Carolina? Transfer portal popping.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating dynamic that we've seen develop. I'll start with South Carolina first. I didn't clock it initially, but when the transfer of Malaysia for oh my god,
Ghost.
Oh, no.
Listen, I mean, no comment yet.
Yeah, to take it back to South Carolina, I didn't really clock it too hardly when a feature story from Sports Illustrated came out about Malaysia for Wiley. But when I read it the first time, it felt very sort of honest from the coaching staff as, okay, this is a really talented player, but these are the steps you still want her to take to really get to that potential she wants to be at. And I think I understand where the coaching staff, Dawn's staff, is coming from, because you want to win, of course, but you want to develop the players so that way they can take the step and fit the system that you're implementing and making work. So I didn't really pay much attention to it. But then when we find out she transfers and then you look back, it's like, maybe that was a little bit too critical in a sense, especially when the minutes tend to fluctuate in the way that it did for her there. And I think they're not professionals, but it's professional sports in the sense that literally everyone's on a 1-year contract more or less these days, as far as NIL goes, the transfer portal, things like that. So there's always, if you're a coach, you have 1 year to really get everything right, especially with with a talented player who can really shoot up the draft boards in the ways that we think for Wiley will in 27, 28, and beyond. So there's that dynamic at play. And I do wonder for her where she does, if she does eventually leave South Carolina and where she winds up next. What's the role going to be like for her? It's definitely going to be a situation where she'd want to start for sure. Like you want to really get those big minutes. You have the championship already, so you got the ring. Now it's about me time. How can I get better? How can I climb up to where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to pay mind to. And for Notre Dame, it really, it's such a, because you think that a team that I remember in the roundup, I was so surprised that they hadn't made the Final Four with Niele yet. I was like, wow, I could have swore they did. But then you look and it's like, oh, they fell short again. They fell short again. And now for Olivia Miles, she really had the breakout season of her career in college. Like her 3-point shooting went through the roof after it was in like the low 20s, early 30s her first 3 years. Now you've had the big leap. And now you're in a situation where if you don't think that Niele and that roster is good enough, Citron is gone, some other players are gone too. So now it's okay. I don't think we're gonna be heading to the Final Four next year. TCU was like knocking on the door of getting to the Final Four, and I saw what Mark Campbell did with Haley Van Lith and how she really sort of like reinvigorated her game after a down year at LSU. Can I head down south? Can I be in this conference? Can I really take that leap, get into the Final Four, and maybe, just maybe, get myself the number 1 pick next year? If I came out this year, I would have been number 2. Next year, my biggest competition is going to be Lauren Betts. And whatever team is out there, will they want an all-star big or an all-star guard? And if I play well enough, and if I keep my 3-point shooting where it was this year, I can really set myself up to be the top pick in what's promising to be a really stacked draft, because Flau'jae is coming out next year. A lot more talent is coming out next year as well too. So if I can use this year to really sort of like stamp and certify myself as a really preeminent guard in basketball, that can set me up for the number 1 pick, and maybe a situation that I would want to be in, and I can really sort of like feature and be that star, whether it be I guess right now, I'd say our early lottery teams next year could be a Connecticut, could be a Washington. We'll sort of see what that looks like next winter when the draft happens. And then she comes into a league with a fresh CBA. So there are probably more, God willing, more spots available, more room to develop, and less of a crunch when it comes to sort of playing time, roster spots, and things like that. So I think for Olivia, getting out of Notre Dame and just whatever sort of like chaos and antics that we may not know about for people who are outside of South Bend, getting to a spot where you get to really sort of be the feature player and then almost controlling your board in 2026 to a certain degree.
Indeed. And you mentioned Flau'jae. That was another maybe a little bit of a surprise. Leaving LSU, like not just leaving us on a cliffhanger. We're talking about big announcement.
She announced already?
Yeah, I think she's on tour. I think she's in Boston. I think she's opening.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm betraying that I'm like kind of washed because I don't know who Boss Mandilo is, and I feel like I should know who Boss Mandilo is. I don't know, man. If it like I was at a dinner last night and I was like, man, they playing some great rap. I was like, I hit a Far Side, I hit Chill. I'm like, this is positively my joint. If Boss Mandilo, I don't know, gang. I can't help you.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely can't help y'all. But I mean, I will say this about Flau'jae, like the team that she has, just perfection. So love that. But things definitely are getting crazy when it comes to the NCAA and the portal. Have Moni's comment up here. Betts, Lotson, who will be at South Carolina, Flau'jae, Miles. The competition is deep. I don't think Olivia would be number 1. And I think, and this is going to lead now to our conversation about this year's draft, but the way that I see the draft is I think that the WNBA teams are getting better, Dallas, Indiana, at Oh, I hope anyway. I hope that those teams and all of the teams are getting better at not getting so caught up on the name, but actually looking for players that fit their system. I mean, there are a lot of players that have gone to Dallas in as top 4 picks that they're not even in the league
Yeah.
4 years later. Indiana had that issue as well for a really long time, and so how are we picking? How are
Yeah.
we picking these people? And yeah, it was for her tour, but that's what I'm saying. Like she was like, haha, I'm leaving LSU, but I got a major announcement. I was like, girl, stop. Like the same thing. She was like, okay, but while you're here,
in
Oh,
a manner of
man.
speaking, she is leaving LSU.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, what is happening? But no, I think that the teams have gotten wiser to really meeting what their needs are. But sometimes there's a player that is coming out of college and it's undeniable. And I think this year is one of those years. So yes, Paige Beckers, you are a Dallas Wing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I Roberta, let's go to you. Chime in and talk a little bit about if you think Paige is going 1, why you think Paige is going 1, I should say, and what is the fit? Is this a fit that could work for Dallas, or are they trying to make something fetch that's not fetch?
There's no doubt she's going number 1. I think that there was people. There were some some murmurs here and there about, can Paige Beckers refuse to go number 1 because she doesn't want to play for Dallas? And I said that in the last episode of the podcast. I don't think any player, regardless of the team, would not want to be number 1 just because of the team that it is. There are things that can be worked out to still be to still make that number 1 pick happen. So if the case was that she would like, by no means I'm going to sign with the Wings. Something could have been worked out in the background, to behind the scenes to make that first pick happen for her. But no, I think someone mentioned here that they wanted to see a Blackbuster trade on draft night. I would love to see one too, but that's just because I love the drama. That's all. So yeah, so I would love to see one of those, but just because it makes it more fun. However, I don't think that the Dallas Wings are going to make any trades for that number 1 pick. The same way that Lin Dunn would by no means make that number 1 trade for Caitlin Clark, just like she didn't do for Sue Bird in 2020.
Let them know.
So yeah, so I think it's very important to remember that we're talking about Kurt Miller, and he's a coach with a very high basketball management IQ. He developed the Connecticut Sun team that we see today. He brought in Rickea Jackson. So I think that Paige Beckers is going to be in really good hands with Kurt Miller. I feel like just the addition of excuse me, the addition of Kurt Miller makes the Dallas team a completely different team from all of the past years. We're talking about a coach who knows how to develop players. About GM who knows how to develop players. He brought in a new coach. He has he's an incredibly smart person. And when you look at the Dallas Wings today, when you pair Paige Beckers with Arike Ogunbowale, that's going to be yeah,
Ghost
I
is
know.
on one tonight. Like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
Not Southwest.
that's funny. So I think that that's going to benefit Enrique a lot,
Mhm.
having that point guard who is going
Yes.
to be able to create, space for her. It's going to give Enrique more freedom to shoot. It's going to help with their post players. Or is Kalani Brown still there? Kalani Brown left, right? But there's the other center. I forgot her name now. The very tall one who made
Big
who.
D?
Oh, McCown?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when you have Paige Beckers working with Enrique on the wings and Sierra McCowan in the center, that's a recipe for success. Again, I think that are they gonna make the playoffs this year? I don't know. I really don't know because last year was a mess. So they're
Every
gonna, yeah,
I feel like every year is a mess, but I digress.
yeah,
Every year is a mess
yes.
with Dallas.
So I
Um,
think that I am very curious to see how Paige Becker's first year is going to go. Rebecca Lobo said something very interesting in the pre draft media availability this week, which is that someone asked about how Paige Becker's efficiency is going to work on her way, on her favor. And Rebecca said, yeah, of course, it's going to work on her favor. And I wouldn't mind seeing her efficiency drop a little bit because it would mean that she's finding more shots. And I
mhm.
think that that's going to be, um, I think that's going to be key for Paige Beckers this year. She's that her efficiency is going to drop. She's probably going to have some more turnovers. Again, that's the whole like going from
Welcome to the
college to
W.
pros. Yeah, that happens. But I'm curious to see how her season's going to go, and I think that um, with Olivia Miles not declaring this year and us not being sure exactly if Dominic Malonga is going to her age. Dominic's agent said that she is going to play in the W this year, but I think that the Rookie of the Year race is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Brian, I want to come to you to talk about Paige in Dallas, but specifically thinking about this because, I mean, we know Arike is on the other side of the efficiency spectrum, and she gets a lot of shade for that. I mean, I've thrown a joke or two out there for sure, because shooters gonna shoot, right? And we talked about that with the New York Liberty. You got a busted thumb. Are you a shooter? Then I guess you shooting. Figure that thing out. Um, but I think it's an interesting question because Arike has had to create. That's how I see it. She's had to create um, in Dallas because Dallas is Dallas. Does this give Arike? Does this and this could be dangerous, y'all. If Arike has someone setting her up and she not doing all that extra out for me, that seems like a dream situation and scenario for Ogumbawale, Brian.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think back as far as like top tier ball handlers that Arike has played with in her career. The only one I could that immediately comes to mind for me right now is Marina Mabry, and it worked out reasonably well, I'd say. So I think for Arike, it's a situation where she's played so many minutes in the past 2 years with LT Letitia Tramo as the coach. It's like you want to, at the very least, if you dial back a little bit, that gives you. Oh, Ty Harris is back there too, so you have more ball handlers. So the shot creation responsibilities aren't solely on your shoulders anymore on the perimeter. And I think for Arike, having a player like Paige who's going to draw attention in that way from defenses, it's going to lead to better and cleaner opportunities, because the problem that Arike has always had is that she gets the best defender every single night, like long defenders, quick defenders, defenders with a lot of muscle that can bump her off screens. She has so many different work troubles and things to get through when it comes to getting her shot. And I think with the new coach, he's a coach that wants to spread the floor out a little bit more. And you give a great scorer more room to work with, good things are going to happen. And I think the fact that you have another guard who can get her own shot, who can score at all three levels. Yeah, we want Paige to shoot the ball a little bit more because, and I think that's going to come with time. But I think just getting those good looks for Enrique is going to be a huge burden off her shoulders. And when she does get the ball, it's a situation where you're not going to have to really sort of like go all out every time. And I think also what helps with Dallas is that having a player like Carrington is going to help defensively. So at the very least, you're going to
That's
get
right.
more possessions because Dejanay is able to sort of create turnovers. You're not, Enrique's not like the best defender, but you have a all W defender who can take that assignment. Be like, okay, if you want to just score, don't worry about it. I got it. I can take care of that. So you have more help on the perimeter for her. So I think that's going to allow her to have more room to sort of be comfortable on offense. And I think especially, I think she has a lot to prove as well too, because last year was like we'd watch it like those games against the Liberty in September, like the back-to-back set in Dallas, they looked complete. They looked like they honestly did not look like a professional team. Like they were not able to, they weren't able to stop a nosebleed. Their offense was disjointed. They lost both games by like 30 each. And it's like, you guys were just in the Final Four a year ago, and you played the Aces reasonably tough in that 3-game series. And game 3 went down to the final possession. Why are you so bad? So it's a situation where it's like, okay, you're the face of the franchise, and last year was so disastrous, and you were on the court for just about all of it. Satu was out for most of the year, so she has a bit of an exemption, but you were there the whole time, so you have a lot to prove, and you have a lot to work with this year. And now that you have more perimeter talent, I'm expecting more from you, and I think that I think she'll get there, but it might be a little bit choppy at first.
I mean, yeah, I think the Enrique stuff is really interesting because she seems like a perhaps milder version of what I often have seen with Tina Charles. Definitely in New York. And then she goes to Washington, EDD is out. Then she goes to Phoenix and folks scrapping on the bench. And then she goes to Seattle hoping to just, she's one of those future Hall of Famers that has wanted to play a specific role as opposed to a larger role, if that makes sense. And she has not been able to do that. Even so, Seattle, she had to play a bigger role. Atlanta, she had to play a bigger role. And I think that, Tina Charles, I have my stories of interacting with Tina Charles, and you can say a lot about Tina. But what you also have to realize is that all of those stops that I mentioned, she went into a team thinking she was going to play one role, had to fill in for an injured all-star, not just any old body. She was filling in for all-stars, Hall of Famers, champions, people who ran those teams. And what TC will do is she's like, all right, y'all got but a few times, and if you can't fix this, then I know I can. And so once Tina Charles gets into that mentality that she's gonna fix it, that's it. Like, F what you heard about anything else. And Enrique, I think, has some of that as well. And maybe you don't like her efficiency. Maybe you don't like her decision making. But I mean, if you look at those Tina Charles years, especially in Westchester County, people were like, why is Tina taking the shot when there are 4 defenders on her? Well, why don't you ask why her other teammates are standing watching her get defended by 4 players and still make the shot?
Yeah.
Where's she supposed to put the ball? They about to walk back to the bench. You feel me? Like, and I'm not like, I'm just like, you listen, Tina, you could say what you want about Tina, but like, I just don't understand why people are not looking at these teams that she apparently, allegedly ruined when she was the saving grace. Sue Bird will tell you that. Liberty will tell you that.
I had that in my mind right now. I was thinking exactly about that. How
You know
Sue
what I'm
Bird
saying?
was like.
You go ahead,
Yeah.
Roberta.
Yeah, because Sue Bird, she mentioned that, if not once, I think she mentioned twice, and if not like 3 times, she said in 2022, she said with these words, we would not have made the playoffs if it wasn't for Tina Charles. She credited the Stars' playoff run to Tina Charles. And I think that
Yup.
this is what Erica is saying. people don't pay attention to how the teams that Tina Charles has worked, how she has improved those teams in circumstances that those teams were sinking if she wasn't there. So she's a very valuable player to have, and
Yeah.
she's one of those players that can lift a team from the bottom.
Mhm. Absolutely. And she's said very clearly that that's not the role that she's wanted to play. So she goes to Atlanta. She's playing a little bit more of a mentorship role. Anyway, all of that is to say that I feel like a milder case of that sometimes gets thrown on Arike and Dallas. And I feel like when you have someone that can run the point and you have a true point guard, I mean, I will say till I'm purple in the face because I got melanin and I don't turn blue. But the point is, the point is that, you know, true lead guards, ones are becoming so rare in the WNBA. And if you have an opportunity to draft a top tier, someone with top tier potential that can play the one, more so is a one, not just play the one, but is a one, you take that. And yes, I do think that this is going to open Arike's game. I really believe that because, and yeah, I think that Paige does need to shoot more. I also clocked what Rebecca Lobo said, and we've seen that Paige Beckers, when Gino gets fired up or got fired up about Paige this past season, he was barking at her to shoot the ball more. That's what he was saying. But if you have Arike, she might not need to do that right away. And I think that will help her transition because if we go to Caitlin Clark, I think that the issue that perhaps got introduced with Caitlin, and then I promise we'll get to the rest of the draft picks. The issue with Caitlin, I think, was that people were fixated on the logo threes and forgot that she also held assist records. Like, that child can facilitate, and that's what she needed to do. And once she perfected that, that's when her offensive game started opening up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she started the whole issue with turnovers is that people wanted her to go to the basket. People wanted her to drive the ball and shoot, drive the ball and shoot. But she has a superb passing skill, and she has non like she has Aaliyah Boston in the paint who she can pass to. You know, so once she started passing, that's when we saw the fever kind of like rise in the ranks.
And that backcourt, man.
Oh man, yeah, yeah, that's
Woo!
yeah,
On the other
and that's
side of the
about
Olympics,
yeah,
that was a filthy backcourt. Filthy.
yeah, yeah, and that's part of the learning curve of going
Exactly.
from the NCAA to the WNBA, which people gave Diana Taurasi so much shit for, you know. Like it's when you leave when you're not when you go from an intern to a professional, like you're learning, and that's what happens to every player who goes from college to the pros. So
Absolutely.
I think that Kaylin Clark, being the player that she is, her learning progression is going to be so exponential
Oh,
just
for sure.
because of
We already
how
saw it.
her yeah, just because of how high her basketball IQ is. We already saw it last season when we saw the end of the season, the second half of the season, Caitlin Clark. It
Mhm.
was already so different from the
Different.
first half of the season. Caitlin
Yep.
Clark, she already looked like a pro. We saw less turnovers. We already see her getting stronger. And I think that Paige Becker's progression is going to be very similar. Although I think that Paige Beckers has prepared herself in a few other ways because she stayed one extra year in college and because
Mhm.
college has I feel like because of NIL and because of uh, how players are able to observe more pros while they're in college. Paige Beckers worked a lot on her body and on her defense. So I think that that's going to give Paige Beckers an edge when it comes to adapting to the WNBA. She's still going to go through the learning process
Yeah.
But
I also just think that Paige has a different demeanor on the court than Caitlin Clark. So there's that also. So I think that's interesting. But as promised, I want to get us back on track because we went in a lot of different, but also great ways. But Roberta, we're going to let you hydrate. So Brian, I'm going to come to you for this. We know who has the number 2 pick. You heard Roberta talk a little bit about really being able to spread the floor and spread defenses, particularly being able to shoot from the mid-range and beyond is something that perhaps is missing for the Storm roster that we know of at the moment. So, Brian, who do you think will go number 2?
Oh, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I feel like Talisa, the Storm GM, sort of tipped her hand a little bit on Thursday when she mentioned the accommodations. That's a great point, Ghost. I want to come back to it a little bit later.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yep.
Yeah. I think Talisa tipped her hand a little bit when Annie Kostiable asked her about accommodating international players. And Talisa mentioned we have a lot of contingencies in place. We talk to their teams, we talk to them, we really get a feel for what's going on. So I think all signs have been pointing to Dominique Malonga, and I think that's where they're going to go. And as I was thinking about it before we came in, I'd love to hear what you guys think. I feel like this is the perfect spot for her because Seattle's front court is so good. You have an all WNBA player like Nneka. You have a young all WNBA player like Ezzy. Lee Yuru, who they picked up from the Sparks in the big trade, is a capable big in this league and can give you minutes. So I think Dominique, if she does go to the Storm at 2, she doesn't have the new rookie pressure that always that comes with top picks. She can really sort of get acclimated into the league, get acclimated to a new country without the crush of when I have my minutes on the court, I got to contribute right now. So I think for her and in everything I've seen of her, she's such a unique talent. In the newsletter, I included a quote that compared her to Ezzy Magbagor, which makes Storm fans really happy and excited. So I wonder for you guys, do you think the Storm are in a situation where they can almost treat her like Niara Sabali in 2023 in the sense of you can just sort of like slow walk it and let her really sort of like sit and learn. And then the second year, you'd be like, okay, take off time. Let's roll.
Okay, so I love that. And I want to add, I'm going to hitch my trailer onto what Brian is saying. And then Roberta, we're obviously going to give you final word here because I like that. And I wonder if also what Malonga can bring to the team actually brings out that beast mode in Ezzy. So Roberta, you and I on Tempestashi Talk, we do think this is the year for Ezzy to break out. And there's just like this sweetness that we love about her soul that we need to shed for when she hits in hardwood. We need the bronze medal Ezzy every day.
Yep.
Like you feel me? And so I mean, yes, I do think that competition is the word that I want to use, but I want to be very specific in saying sometimes I'm still in hockey mode, but we talk about in hockey goaltenders and having goaltenders that are comparable to each other in how they train, how they think, but also differentiate enough so that you have, expertise, but also you want them to be able to work in an environment where they're challenging each other, but in a good, positive teammate kind of way. And I wonder if Malonga could be that, and obviously Ezzy be that for Malonga.
Yeah, since we're talking about Ezzy, or we talked about her bronze medal performance, today she was also crowned EuroLeague Women's Champion. So, US, USK Praha beat Fenerbahce in the semifinals. So Gabby Williams-Steen. And today they beat CBK Mersing, which is Marine Johan's team. So, okay, it's impossible not to draft Dominic Malonga, right? When it's a number 2 pick, like the same way that you're not going to not draft Paige Beckers at first, you're not going to not draft Dominic Malonga at 2. And I think that it would be very beneficial for Dominic. I think that being under sorry, Aziz and Naka's wings would be great for her. Plus Li Ru, you have three international players there. You have a Chinese center, you have an Australian power forward, and then you have a French center. For me, that's beautiful. And is that what the Storm needs right now? Is that what they need in the immediate present? Because yes, yes, like Brian said, Talisa kind of like tipped her hand, and also she made it very clear both on Thursday and in the Storm free agency presser that they are building a championship team, and they're building a team that's going to win now. Their their goal is to be a championship contender and win a championship. Um, and I asked Clarice, Talisa specifically so about what they were envisioning for that second pick, and she said, "We want someone who can help, who is going to have an impact and help us win now and in the future." So I feel like it's a very tricky situation because, and that's not from sources, but people who are familiar with people at the Storm, they were hopeful for Olivia Miles, and Olivia Miles not declaring was kind of like threw them off a little bit because she would be a big help in that shooting guard position. She's a scorer. I believe that she could be a starter. Now, Dominic Malonga, is she going to be a starter over Azzy and Neka, over Lee Yuru, who already has experience? Um, they're going to have four really good players in the paint.
Ghost. Ghost. I can't stand you. I'm sorry. Continue. We'll get to that. We will get to that in a minute. Continue.
Yeah, so I think that Dominic is going to have such a big impact in the WNBA. I do think that the Storm drafting her kind of contradict themselves in what they are seeking right now. At the same time, it is so hard to have a player like that available and not draft her because do you know if we're gonna have NECA in 2026? Do you know if we're gonna have Azzy in 2026? Nobody knows anything. But if you want to win now, I don't think Dominic Malonga is the fit that the Storm needs now. I I am no GM or front office person. I think Sonia Citron would
Okay,
be
I was going to ask
awesome right
you.
now.
I was going to ask you because we do have a few people that have Sonia as that 2 pick. I really liked what she was able to do for
Hmm.
Notre Dame down the stretch. She was kind of keeping them on life support
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
minute. Yeah, Ghost
yeah.
Roberta like
It is.
Citron. So I feel you. I honestly don't think that's a bad pick either. I do think Malunga, I said this somewhere else, but Malunga kind of fits for me, Brian, in what we see Jonathan Kolb doing, right? A big that gives you versatility.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be able to have a big roster, you don't lose in certain areas by having a player like Malunga there because you can move other pieces around. You can move her around. And Citron hits what you're talking about, right? Because,
Yeah.
we know Nika Mule not available. Horston, we know not available. So it's going to be interesting for sure to
Mhm.
see
Yeah.
what Seattle does. Brian, you want to tap in?
Yeah, like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking back to a lot of the earlier mock drafts with that when Miles was presumably in. Like the logic sort of we all had was okay, they need now that Jules out the door, they need a scoring 2 guard. Can they like Miles is there? I feel like if the Storm, this is the rare moment where since you're in need of guard help, you'd want to be like, okay, if I had the 4th pick and this problem, if you want to call it, wasn't presented for me. I could just grab my guard and go home. Now, I think for Seattle, they're in a situation where you want to win now, but you
Yeah.
can't really afford to pass on the best player available,
Available.
Exactly.
Yeah.
especially
Yep.
one who at 19 and has already had international experience and really good international experience
Hell
at that.
yeah.
You
Hmm.
can't, I think, unless there's like a generational guard in front of you at number one,
Yeah.
and that door's closed for you, unfortunately. Now you
Yeah.
can't be like, okay, can I pass on that? I don't think you could, because I think especially
Hmm.
for a team building for a team building context, you really want to have a situation where you have that player and at 19, so you know the age curve is a lot
Yeah.
longer, and sports now players can go like 15 plus years and still be able to play at a really high level. We see it in the
Hmm.
WNBA, we see it all over the place. So you have a 19-year-old in your building, and you really
Yeah.
can sort of like gradually build her. Like, we know she can hoop against adults because she does it right now already.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a situation where you're 19 coming into the league and you're just beating up on NCAA players, with all respect to their
Yeah.
improvements in the college ranks. So so it's like you can't afford to let that walk. But then you have a situation where you lost your two guard, and the Storm haven't had to like run an offense that hasn't been dual centered in a really long
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a big thing to sort of like shake. And even the year Stewie was out in 2021, it was still Jewel running it, and Noelle was coaching in 21, if I remember correctly. So Noelle really hasn't had a situation where she's had to like craft an offense without Jewel being there, and that safety blanket of, we haven't scored in 5 possessions. Jewel, get in the elbow, make something happen.
Hmm.
Like, she doesn't have
Right.
that anymore. So
Right.
scoring is going to be a lot harder for Seattle, and
Hmm.
their offseason acquisition. I want to say it was, as far as guards, I think it was just Lexi was the big pick. I'm trying to think who else was their big guard acquisitions this winter,
It
because they
was
lost.
Lexi.
Yeah, yeah,
It
because
was
like they
Lexi.
yeah, they lost Whitcomb, Lloyd they lost, of course. So the scoring is going to be a lot harder. So it's a
Hmm.
situation where, can you say, Skylar, we need you to like average like 18, 19 a night. You're going to have the ball a lot more in your hands. Can you carry that workload? I think her unrivaled play is like a could be like a preview of sorts when it comes to that.
Hmm.
But
Oh
I
yeah,
think
Eric
it's going to be
Wheeler. Right.
really. Oh yeah, Weezy.
Yeah,
I forgot
that's the
about
number.
Weezy.
Mm-hmm.
She's also
Yeah.
a true PG.
Yeah.
They're really missing that shooting guard, because when you look, so the Storm is really sad when it comes to they have two experienced point guards. They have Skylar Diggins Smith and Erica Wheeler, and they also have and they have a very young point guard in development who's Nico Beal. In the two position, they have Lexi Brown and I think Zaya Cook. Lexi Brown, I would see her being a starter if the Storm goes with Dominic Malonga in the draft. But that so let's put that to the side. They have Lexi Brown for the shooting guard, and then you have Katie Lou Samuelson, Alicia Clark, Gabby Williams, who can play the three. Jordan Horston, unfortunately, is off for the season. And then when you think about 4 or 5, players who can play in the paint and still shoot a little bit from outside, you have Azzy, you have Neka, and you have Lee Yuru. So the Storm has really good pieces for almost every position. The Storm has good starters. The Storm has good reserves. It's going to be Noel Quinn is going to have some really good rotations with those players. But that second position, the shooting guard position, is a big liability, and they cannot afford that, especially when the Aces has Jewel Lloyd now is scoring on the two,
Yeah.
and Erika is gonna have someone passing her the ball. I feel like they really need to take a look into that, and it is such a tough situation to be in, which we were just talking that you have a player in the draft who you just cannot pass on. Like you have Dominic
Yeah.
Malonga.
Yeah.
You're gonna look. You can't let her pass, and at the same time, how is that going to impact your team right now? Someone mentioned, and again, I want to go back to the blockbuster trade comment. this is something that has been in the back of my mind because there was also some, like, we know that some teams wanted to make some trades for the number two with the Storm, but the Storm was set of keeping the number two, because of Olivia Miles. Now that Olivia Miles and is not there anymore, would the Storm be willing to make a trade? And Ghost just made that question, which is exactly what I'm going to say. I think
Let's sync
that
up. I love that.
I know, it's crazy. We're like, I'm saying, yeah, they,
Like, that's your burner account. You can tell it.
yeah, I know, yeah, there it is. Uh, so I think that trading away the second pick for a high level number two, I don't think would be the worst thing to happen. Uh, so I, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So what I'm thinking is that if they want to win right now, they need to fill that shooting guard position. And they need to have a player who scores like 15 or more points per game. Now, what I'm going to say now, I don't know if people can burn me alive for that, or if Erica may even kick me out of the podcast, but Marina Mabry.
Well, I mean, the Connecticut said she ain't going.
Perhaps for the second overall pick, and
Okay, so
Dominic
you know what?
Longa.
Okay, so actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to just look at the draft board again. Storm can't afford Marina. Because we have Washington and Connecticut that have multiple picks. Both teams presumably in a full on rebuild, not a retool, not a reset. They're like
No
coming up.
hybrids here.
Right,
No.
exactly. No hybrid rebuilds,
Mm-mm.
JK, as in Jonathan Kolb, not like just kidding, or maybe both. But so, I mean, that could be interesting. That could be interesting because my question was going to be to y'all as we look at the rest of the draft board and the potential, the picks here. Do we think even with 3 picks for Washington or 2 for Connecticut and a potential trade, as Roberta had said, which maybe gives them the second overall, is there enough, Brian, in this draft class specifically for these teams to get a competitive edge in the 2025 season?
I'm thinking especially about Washington at 3, 4, and 6. Like they're going to be in a rebuild, but they have really captivating front court young talent. Like the duo of Shakira Austin and Aaliyah Edwards. Like that's a really good building block right there.
Shakira got to stay healthy though.
Yeah, that's the big problem because like when she plays, she's up there, but
Dynamic,
then
for sure.
it's an ill-timed injury. It's a really unfortunate break, and then you don't really get to see it in the ways that her game sort of like presents itself. So Washington especially is in a really interesting spot. Like I've seen a lot of mocks have them taking players like Aria Fenn and Anissa Morrow, and then it's like, oof, that's cutting it. Like, are they going to really be able to sort of blossom with Aaliyah Edwards ready to take the year 2 leap? Because she really balled out and Unrivaled. So you
my gosh.
Yeah, you see it right there, and she's ready to sort of take that next step. So it's a lot of interesting sort of like subplots in the draft. And one of the comments earlier asked what could Golden State offer at number 5 to possibly move up. And I was taking a peek at the Valkyries roster, and they're still in that we want to find a player who wants to be the sort of face of the franchise. I was reading a great story earlier today that mentioned Ohema Nianen, the former Liberty assistant GM who's running Golden State. Like they're still sort of like trying to sort of figure out what the best approach is for the team. And they got a little bit of a late start. So they're still sort of figuring it out on the fly. I wonder if it's
Big draft news. Big draft
no
news.
way. Just coming in. Read it because I don't have my email open. All right.
Chicago Sky acquired 2025 number 11 overall draft pick from Minnesota. So
Minnesota has entered the chat.
So yeah, the Chicago Sky announced today that the team acquired the number 11 overall pick in the 2025 WNBA Draft. In exchange, Chicago and Minnesota agreed to extinguish Minnesota's right to swap the team's own 2026 first round draft pick.
Okay, I'm just reading it now. Hold on.
They're like
Literally
just came
breaking
in.
news. The
Yeah,
breaking news. We're all going to our emails. Hold
yeah,
on.
yeah,
This came in literally 1 minute ago. Well done,
yeah,
Roberta. Let me
yeah.
put it up on the screen so we can have. Hold on. And y'all know, my crew knows I've been having technical difficulties, but I think I can make this work. It just is a little slower than usual. You gotta bear with Auntie today. You gotta bear with Auntie
Oh no,
today.
I'm letting people know that we're talking about it.
That's crazy. Oh, also that's the wrong email. I got like a million different screens. Hold up. Because you know what I was doing while we were talking? I was actually looking up the salary cap because of what Moni was saying. But okay, hold on. So because I'm also trying to read it. There's a lot going on, but I'm gonna get this. Here we go. We're gonna put it on the screen for y'all. Let me make it a little bit bigger so we can all read as a unit together. Okay, so the Lynx acquire that pick, the 11 pick, extinguished the previous right to exchange the 26 first round draft pick with the Chicago Sky. Now possess 2 first round selections.
Yeah, I think it has I think it ties a lot with we were talking earlier about how valuable the 2026 draft is going to be and how much depth it's going to bring. We don't know if AZ Fudd is going to declare next year, but we do need to have that in mind that AZ is going to come into the WNBA very soon. And when we're talking, we saw what she can do when she's healthy. I think that towards the end of the NCAA season, we saw. I'm not even going to say that we're seeing her full potential. I don't think that's her full potential, but I think
Yeah.
we are seeing a healthy AZ Fudd
Yeah.
who is going to get only better. And with all of the injuries that she's had with the treatment, I think that her body's only going to get stronger. Her muscles are going to develop and get um, even better. So that's, I think, is what we're talking about, because again, that with the new CBA, with guys, it it's going to be chaotic next season.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
going to
So
be insane.
and someone else mentioned the CBA. I want to talk about that. But first, Moni, she doesn't have to declare. She just can't stay playing NCAA basketball. So she doesn't have to declare.
You ain't got to go home, but
But she can't stay here. She will not be at UConn playing basketball. I mean, she could be at UConn, but she can't be playing basketball at
Yeah.
UConn or anywhere else. That's basically what that means. But the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, I know a lot of people have been wondering if that is leading to people making certain decisions, because I've talked about this a few times on the podcast. I don't think anyone should, and I hope they write this into the next CBA. And if they do, I'm going to get on here and act a fool. Please put in a Sylvia Fowles clause. What do I mean by that? Sylvia Fowles re-signed in a year where the CBA was changing, and then like a week later the salaries went up, just poof, like that. And she didn't get any of that money because she dedicated herself to Minnesota. I do think that a way to ameliorate any will they, won't they, because AZ, Flage, maybe they'll just play it unrivaled, get what, four times their rookie salary? Okay, not exactly 4, but is some duplicate at least of their rookie salary for 5, 6, what is it, 5, 8 weeks, whatever it is. But the CBA won't affect this draft class, at least let me put it this way. This draft class will be beholden to the CBA that exists. What I hope the Players Association advocates for is a way to, whether it's veterans, mid players, or rookies, that they have a way to recalibrate salaries based on the CBA that is going into effect. And my personal opinion is that they should do that for all players, not just for certain targeted players. But if they were only going to do that for certain targeted players, then I do think it should be the rookies. So, I think they should figure out a way, kind of some sliding scale or whatever. I'm not great at math, so someone who knows numbers better and accounting can do that. But I do know enough to know that there are ways to make sure that any changes, because we know salary is top of the list. I mean, I don't want to speak for the PA, but it sounds very much non-negotiable, right? That the salaries need to change. And if we get to lockout, it's probably going to be because, Auntie Kathy had that charter money, but she ain't had the money for the players. I just I still don't understand how a league that was like, well, the charters aren't in our CBA, then all of a sudden was like, well, still not in our CBA, but now it's here, and there's no addendum. I literally asked the commissioner at All-Star, was there an addendum? Like, how is this possible if it's not in the CBA? And it was just like, no, we did it because we could. Excuse me? What is the CBA? What is the purpose of the CBA? Like, I don't understand why people aren't talking about this more. Like, this is a red button issue for me. And maybe it's because I was raised by a lawyer, but baby, what you mean that all these years you were telling me I couldn't do something because it wasn't in the CBA, and all of a sudden you woke up on a Sunday and was like, you know what? Caitlin Clark is going to fly charter to her first game. What do you mean?
When you had Brittany Griner getting death threats the year before.
I don't understand how people let that fly. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. So about the CBA. Exactly. Thank you. Retroactive clause. Thank you. Yeah. Exactly. Retroactive sliding scale. Like there's a few different ways that you can do it, but that's what they need to do. So I'm sure there are people smarter than me that can figure that out. But like, if they don't, I'm gonna come on here and yell just like I did about what do you mean you did it just because you can? Excuse me, then red mark the CBA. That needs to be in writing. I just don't understand. Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna move on.
Are we though?
The Atticus Finch. Thank you. Okay, I'm coming off my soapbox now. Like, what do we mean? What are you doing? How is that okay? Because it's not. Okay.
I had 1 minute of thought before we hit the road.
No, go for it.
I find that, I guess it's interesting, the Lynx, they're getting out of the first round this year, and they lost Chechi to the expansion draft. I wonder if Cheryl is thinking to herself, okay, I'm really going to need to see what I have in Diamond Miller this year, and there's more room for her, because she got hurt overseas, and then she dealt with injury throughout the year, and I don't think she even saw the court in the playoffs, or definitely not the finals. Like, we didn't see her at all. And she was a top pick when she came in 23. And I think especially if she was looking good that first year, then injuries got her last year. I wonder if Cheryl Reeve and their staff are thinking to themselves, okay, we have one less pick to work with this year. We move it. We move that elsewhere. Let Chicago have that problem as far as a roster crunch. And we tell Diamond, okay, we have a lot of faith in you. We want to really see what you can do. You saw the good habits of a championship caliber team, a Commissioner's Cup winning team. Like, you see it. Yeah. Now it's okay. I really want to see what you've got.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I guess also for the Sky, since they're giving the pick to Minnesota outright next year, I find that part interesting too.
I don't understand. Like, they lost me. Not they had me, but they lost me when they got rid of Teaspoon. I'm just like,
I don't know what I've been thinking about Chicago, and the more I think about Chicago, the more confused I get. Like, I
are they the new Dallas? Oh my God, are they the new Dallas?
I can make them make sense. I really can't. Like,
I think they're the new Dallas.
What I know is that Jeff Pagliuca and Tyler Marsh, they seem to be very aligned on we want shooters. Like,
Mm.
yes, of course, but you also have two generational paint players. You have
That are
Camila
just gonna be
Cardozo
getting
and
the
you have
rebounds, I
Andrew Reed.
guess.
Yeah, and then you get the situation where like Kennedy Carter played really well with Camila. They were so good with the high low, and but you decided to keep Dana Evans, who then flew the coop, and you're bringing like yes, I think that I always forget that his Loot is now with the Sky. I forget that she's not a Liberty anymore. I am curious to see how that's going to work, how her work's gonna go with Camila and Andro. I do know that Andro has been working on her shooting off the paint. So, but it is a franchise that I just like they don't seem to it doesn't make sense like
Yeah,
basketball
make it
wise.
make sense. It doesn't.
Yeah, basketball wise, I've been talking to people like in the basketball world. People are confused, like
We'll
what are
see.
you doing,
We'll
you know?
see.
It's crazy.
We will see, I suppose, how things go down. Before we hop, though, I did want to. We didn't even get through the whole draft, but honestly, we did what we needed to do.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something Damien asked. Brian, we'll start with you. Do you think that it was worth trading Cloud for this year's first round pick and next year pick as well? And then I'm also going to throw this one in from Ronnie because they're related, in my opinion. The number 7 pick in this year's draft was Cloud. The Liberty is running it back. So who in this year's draft is better than Cloud in Sandy's offense defense? Because a rookie ain't going to get it. That's for dang sure. We talked about that earlier. Like, sorry to anyone who's on a training camp contract because you in danger, girl. But like, but Brian, what do you think about that? Is Cloud a good exchange for a first round draft pick, in your opinion?
I think so, and I think the Liberty are operating in sort of a different calculus because they're so close to being really on top of the mountain for a lot longer than just 1 year. I think it allows them more flexibility to be like, okay, the pick we got this year was free from Phoenix because we got that in the Mabry trade, which got us Leo too. So that's easy money right there. That's like you found a $50 bill walking down the street, and I was like, oh, I'll take that gladly. And then next year, their pick presumably is going to be at the bottom of the draft again. So you have a situation where you have a pick that's free and a pick that's going to be low next year. You get to really sort of move that for a player who can contribute right now and still be good to great for the next couple of years too. I think it gives the Liberty a lot more flexibility to work with. And I think also and this comes to the pre-planning that Kobe has been doing for many years. Like moments like this, and when you have 2 expansion drafts coming into a strange new world with the new CBA coming up next year,
Exactly.
you've got enough overseas talent stashed away to be like, okay, hey, how about, do you want to come on over to New York? Okay, there's a spot here for you. Is there a player we can finagle and acquire with some of the assets we have left over? Can we do that? I think we can. Like, we have good relationships with teams across the league, and players want to come here. They've seen what we've built here, and they see the respect and the sort of like admiration New York has for the Liberty. Like, you'd want to be a part of that. And I think all the sort of like groundwork that Kolb and the staff have been building for many, many years is paying off in big ways. New practice facility coming down the line. So there's so many great options together for the Liberty that I think moving to first round picks, especially ones that are low, I think would be very helpful. And I think within that, you at least have enough foundation to work with, because if they took the pick this year and then the player sits and it's like, you have this pick, why aren't they playing? It's a situation. It's kind of similar to how a lot of the chatter and online discourse was as it related to not getting Q Davis enough minutes last year. It's do you want to deal with that again when you're trying to push for a championship? Like the Liberty, the Liberty tends to like not listen to chatter too much, but it becomes
They don't.
Yeah, back-to-back years you're not playing your rookie. Like, come on, what's happening here? Like, you eliminate that problem, so it's a complete non-factor. And now you can just go about the business of lining up the rotations, putting your lineups together, nursing B to full health, letting Burke do a little bit more in year 2. Beck Gardner's back, letting her sort of like turn up. Like, you have a situation where you still have a young roster, because I think Leo's the same age as Angel Reese. So it's like, okay, great. Like, you have a 24-year-old who's getting better by the day. And you really have Niara Sabali. I think she's like the same age as Leo, maybe like a little bit younger, older.
I mean, depending on where they are in the draft class, it might be a deal breaker. I mean, it's expensive. New York is not
apartments are expensive down here, man.
For no dang reason. Better live with the whole starting 5 live together. I mean, and new facilities coming, that's going to help too. Like, the fact that they have suites, they'll be like, all right, we went over our game plan, and then all of a sudden all the doors just go like Sandy's in a room by herself because everyone's in their pod, in the freaking hyperbaric chambers with the Fountain of Youth IV drip, like,
so many spas just populate out of nowhere. Like, where did this heated bed come from? Like
exactly, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, this is gonna be crazy. Oh my gosh. But go ahead, Roberta.
No, it's not related to that, but unrelated to that, but I would love to hear later where you two think Hailey Van Lith is gonna fall in the draft.
So actually we can talk about that. I honestly don't know. I feel like I see her everywhere from Chicago to Minnesota, to Connecticut. I think people still have her on the lower end of the first round. For me, when I think about players like Hailey Van Lith and I think about this draft overall, I was saying on another show that I just feel like this is a draft full of like gritty sandpaper players, which I love. I love me some bark. I love me some grit. I love me some sandpaper. I love me some moxie. And this draft has a lot of that. It really does. Like, these are players that they're not going to get punked. Ain't nobody stepping over them. Like, you might knock them on their butt, but you gonna be knocked down right there with them. You know what I'm saying? So with Hailey Van Lith, I think I have to think about fit. I mean,
the Mystics, maybe
the Mystics. I was actually thinking of Connecticut. I think if she goes to Connecticut, she's like she's a starter, no questions asked.
Yeah,
and maybe this is like too high of a pick for her to go, but I think that Golden State could use a guard like her.
That's another team as well, and another example of like you getting minutes right away, right, Brian?
Yeah, I was thinking, especially for Connecticut, there are gonna be minutes, and I feel like I would bet a paycheck in that Marina Mabrey has not shown up to no dang Uncasville no more. I don't want to go back there. I don't like casinos.
My gosh.
So I think for Hailey, like, that's an opportunity to get like actual real starter minutes, because Marina ain't trying to deal with that no more. Jen Rosati is going to try to be like, come to work. No,
like, I can't.
not
I respectfully decline. Yeah, I don't know. Yes and yes. Okay, that's our show. Thank you. No. I mean, I feel like on our individual shows, and even the last time we were all together, I mean, the New York Liberty, I wasn't as concerned as I was last year. Y'all might remember I was like, I understand, JK, don't hit me with this hybrid rebuild no more. What's going on? You a little quiet. And that's why, just as an aside, I didn't get to this, but Cheryl being real quiet, and that scares me. Why is she so quiet? Why is she so quiet?
Yeah. Oh my God, that is true.
You feel me? Like she got a closet full of blazers she's about to throw at everybody this season. So just as an aside, why are you so quiet? And then you pull this as we recording. She's trying to mess with us. She was like, "Oh, gotta get up. It's recorded. Drop that thing right now. Drop that thing right now. Hit the button." No, jokes aside, I am very curious to see what Minnesota is going to do. But New York, Leonie Fibish is proven, tried and true. And even if she does get more defensive pressure from opponents and opposition, which I think is bound to happen now that people know what she can do, I think that her defensive game is just as sound. And what she can do there for the Liberty is going to be huge. Jury's not out for me with guard. Y'all know I'm an eye test person, so I want to see it. But I do remember what she did in Chicago, so I'm not concerned. I'm just more curious. Tosh Cloud is that sandpaper. I love it. In her first social media post, she even said it. She was like, "New York, I knew y'all needed a dog, and now you got one." And like, no truer words. I will never forget. What was that? 2023, right? First round. And Washington played New York first round, and Tosh did everything to keep the Mystics from elimination.
Oh yeah,
it didn't work, and the crowd was so active against her during the game. But as soon as that game was over, and Tosh must have been doing an interview or something because she was on the court without the rest of her team. The team had already gone to the locker room, and the crowd showed her so much freaking love. And I'm like, yeah, tap that up, tee that up. And not to mention, y'all know how I feel about them keys going to Sabrina, and she's not a true one. I've been telling y'all that for a while now. And her defense is better, but it's not great. So you have a true one. You know how I feel about having a veteran at the point guard. So that Tosh Cloud pickup was clutch for me. Izzy Harrison is also interesting. That's technically, right, Brian, a training camp contract. Mm-hmm. But Izzy is very interesting as well. And I think similarly to how I think about Seattle sometimes, I think that's what New York is smartly doing, is putting themselves in a situation where not only in the immediate, but maybe also in the intermediate, they have some pieces that can rotate to give some of their stars either the support they need when they're on the court, or give them a break, give them an extended break. So if you think about it for the Storm, this is what I was thinking about earlier, Roberta. If you need Nneka to drop 30 damn points every game, then you use her in spurts. And if you have a Malonga, just as an example, then you're not as concerned about potentially, right? Because you don't lose size. I think I'm more so thinking about it from a size perspective. They have to at least hold it down defensively. And I think you can do that when you have size. And then you give Nneka a little bit of a break, a breather. She doesn't have to work so hard on that defensive side so that she can then lift the offense. Because the offense is going to still go through Nneka. Skylar Diggins-Smith is going to have to be huge. And so that is where not having a shooting guard, that becomes a little bit of an issue. But the way you back yourself, the way you help yourself in the back end, I think, is by making Nneka the focal point, and then also being strategic with how you utilize her minutes. Ghost, get out of here. Stop with your craziness. And I didn't, I saw your comment from earlier. You think you slick. That did not pass. Okay, just keep on with that 1 in 19. You know what? Matter of fact, I'm gonna get a replica ring, and on the inside, I'm gonna put 1 in 19 and still got a ring. Boom! Still got a ring. Boom! Yes, exactly. And see, we didn't mention AC. There you go.
Yeah, no, I think that we did mention her earlier, and I apologize, I'm running out of breath. I think that can the Storm still have a good run, even if they don't have a high scoring shooting guard? Sure, you have the pieces to spread the score. You can have. We all know that Skylar has the capacity to be a scorer, and then of course Nneka, Gabby, Azzy. Those are all people who can bring in double digit averages. So I think that it's just this very. I feel like the spot that the Storm is in on now. I did not want to be Talisaria right now. Like, I
Yeah.
am so happy that
Will she
you
have
know.
job security or be in the hot seat?
Yeah, because here's the thing. We talked about how you just can't pass on Dominic Malonga. You can't. She is a generational player. She's that sorry everyone. She is that kind of like Lauren Jackson, big, who can do everything and can move like smoothly around. And I'll always give credit to LJ for bringing this trend to bigs of
Mm-hmm.
scoring because she was
Yep.
one of the first ones. So uh, Lauren Jackson, Daladon, LS. So I don't think they are gonna pass Dominic just because it would be like crazy to do that, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that if they are, I also think that they could make big things if they brought in Sonia Citron on the two.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I know I had mentioned it. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I had a question for you guys. I guess we'll probably talk more about it as we draw closer to the season. But do you think Seattle, of all the teams in the league, has the most pressure on them to really compete at a super high level this year?
I think so because of how
Yeah.
much they have spent, and also with the whole Jewel Lloyd situation, they have
Yep.
like a big chip on their shoulder
Yep.
to, there's going to be both it's going to be a situation of on the court and storyline type of thing. Uh, so I think that they do have a lot of pressure, and I do think that that's where the whole "we want to win now" narrative comes from because
Yeah.
basically they have to win if they want to attract players in the future. For a long time, the Storm had an edge on a lot of teams with the practice facility, with the championships, but slowly but surely, and now actually faster than previously, teams are catching up to everything that the Storm has. So they need a big season, and they need to make a statement that the Storm is still like a top dog in the WNBA, and I think that that's what they're looking to do this season.
Yeah. Yeah, not much with cap space per her hoop stats. They cored Gabby Williams, which we know. I think, Erica Wheeler at training camp, and then you have Kaylee Lou unprotected, Horston and Mule both injured, but also unprotected. AC, I think, I don't remember if I said that, but she's also unprotected. I think a trade makes more sense to get what they need scoring wise as opposed to giving up the number 2. Now, if you need to give up the number 2, do you do that? I think it depends on the shooting guard, to be honest. This is her hoop stats. Let me scroll down so you can see her hoop stats. Great resource, and these are their salary cap sheets. As you can see, you can just go by team, and these I actually do have a subscription, but these are available without having to log in, just so y'all know. Very helpful resource. Her hoop stats.
It's really good. Yeah.
Super good. And so I think for me, I think if they keep the 2 pick, you still have to figure out a way to
Yeah.
make some moves. Katie Lou Samuelson is an interesting player. I'm not super sold on her ability to be what the Storm need in one single package, but if you find another
She's not
shooter,
consistent.
and that's what it is. If you find another shooter and you want to kind of, have them be a tandem, maybe. And then you have a taller lineup, and her hoop stats, a taller lineup. Then you have a lights out shooting lineup, but then who becomes that shooter? What do you exchange for that? I think that's something that the Seattle Storm have to figure out. But to Brian's point, yeah, I do think there's a lot of pressure, especially because, I mean, I don't think that the Jewel Lloyd situation has been literally resolved because Jewel's not on the team. It's been handled, and it's not something that is easily forgotten, because I don't think there's clarity on exactly what created that situation. So it's only reasonable, even as a neutral person who has no opinion one way or another about the Storm and their personnel, you're kind of like, okay, but what happened here? You know, it just seemed like someone who was such a big part of recruiting Skylar Diggins-Smith and Nneka is now not with that team anymore, and in a very, what seemed like, tension-filled exit. So I think they have to figure that out. And yeah, that this is another thing, because of what the CBA exists as of now, they're probably going to have to do some of this with shorter roster spots, which also leads to maybe you, pun intended, weather the storm of 25. You take Malunga, you stick with what you have, and then you see, because again, the CBA, if we have a 26 season, it's because the CBA has changed salaries. Like, I don't think I'm breaking news here, right? Because players have already floated. We're prepared for a lockout. We're not expecting one, but we're prepared for one. Yeah. And the main issue that it seems to me like the players are not willing to budge on is salaries. And what that looks like, we'll have to figure out. So all of that to say, do you kind of, again, weather that storm? If you're Seattle for this year, stick with what you have. Because I don't think this is a bad roster. Do they get to the playoffs?
No.
I think there's a good chance that they get to the playoffs. How deep they're going to go in the playoffs, we don't really know.
Yeah, I've said that, and I stand on it. I think that, of course, there's a lot of comparison. People have been talking, like, is the Fever or the Storm gonna end up top 4? I think that wait, what?
The Liberty tired of hearing about how they are not champs because of the refs and that ass shooting slump. That's my edge. Remember what Shorty said. I mean, hey, we do know the Liberty, they might seem meek and tame, but they do keep receipts. We know that.
Yeah.
Especially, right, Brian? Stewie, she keep them receipts.
Oh, I love that. I love me some pettiness. What I'm saying, what I was saying is that I think that the whole, we're not gonna know for sure. We're not gonna know for sure how the Storm's gonna do this season until we have that, shooting guard situation figured out. Because honestly, if they are looking at Lexi Brown to be the number 2, then the front court is going to carry like the heavy load for the team. I don't think it's a good call.
Yeah, I don't believe in that. I wish Lexi the best, and I'm not sure I completely understand Lexi Brown on this particular team. Yeah. Now, Wheeler's interesting because here's something. Erica Wheeler comes with some caveats for me, but what we do know is Erica Wheeler, Brian, right, can play the 1. So if you have Erica Wheeler playing with Skylar, then does that then give Skylar more of the green light to shoot because she doesn't have to facilitate?
Yeah, I saw Moni making the point earlier that Skylar can score, but then
sure.
Yeah, you went into the problem of, is that the best sort of usage of her? Because Skylar's such a great passer. I think she's been like top 5 in assists each full season she's had in the league. So you want to have her be the decision maker and sort of keep everything operating for the Storm. So that's an interesting sort of like dynamic we'll have to figure out. I was taking a peek. I think on the Her Hoop Stats page, it looks like they have a little bit of cap room. So
it was like 176, I think. Something like that.
So the number 2 pick is going to be, let's say, around 70 something or so, somewhere around there, I think. But
Yep, that's about right.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So that leaves you, I would say, 10 roster spots, and then you have 106,000 to sort of like piece together for like 2 spots. But then teams always run a player short in the event they need to grab somebody during the season.
Yep.
So for Seattle, it's is there a player, is there like a late free agent, someone in training camp you can sort of just like bring in to be our 11th, and then we keep a spot free for number 12. So it's very difficult math for Talisa and the Storm to sort of figure out. And training camp starts in 2 weeks. Today's the 14th. Training camp, I think, officially breaks on the 27th. So we're right around the corner. So whatever sort of like background work they've been doing, like, it's pencils down at this point. Like the hand the paper in. You got to start getting ready to move on to the next stage. So it's going to be very fascinating to see what they have in store and what else could be out there at the last hour.
Yeah. And I want to bring this up again because, Roberta, I see a comment regarding Wheeler and cap space. So Wheeler, again, this is the 78-8 on a training camp. So it's contingent on making the roster. But, do you have any concerns about bringing on Erica Wheeler going off of what Brian just said?
I don't have any concerns, and I think it would be a good idea because Skylar Diggins-Smith is going to need someone to take over for her when she's on the bench, and she's going to need a veteran PG to help her to fulfill that role, because we all know that without a veteran PG, you can make things work. So
they already making money off her. She making that roster.
So I think that Erica is making the team. She's someone that the team needs, especially since we don't know when or if Nika's coming back. Still, if she's coming back, yes, she's still a very untested point guard. And if we're talking about a team that wants to win now, they need an experienced point guard to support Skylar Diggins-Smith, and Nika is not that person right now. So I think that Erica will be great.
And I just want to, for either one of you, I'll start with Roberta though, because my understanding is that they can keep the salaries of Horston and Mule, but they're not obligated to.
No, and it's very likely that at least Jordan Horston is going to have her contract suspended for the season. When it comes to Nika, I'm not convinced because she's already in the recovery process. So I think she might be reintegrated to the team. I would say that I'm like 90% sure that Jordan Horston's contract is going to be suspended.
Yeah, and there were also some things on social media that had fans, a little bit concerned. But so that could then wipe off, right? If I'm understanding correctly, that would wipe off that 76-6.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Nika, if they think, to your point, that she could return, they can retain her salary. So this is where, again, the CBA is trash and it gets dicey. But remember that year when Stewie got hurt and then she met her wife? That's not the point of the story, but it is a fact. And well, she didn't meet her, but they got together. Anyway, the point is Stewie got hurt and Kathy M. effing Engelbert pulled something out of her. I did it because I could bag again. Because the reason that the Seattle Storm were able to take Stewie, or they decided to take Stewie off of their roster and off of their salary, and is because the WNBA made Stewie a league ambassador and salary, and that had teams pissed off because that was the year that so I forget who it was, but why am I blanking right now? But there were a few other players, high profile players that were also hurt that season, and their teams did not have an option. So their teams either had to say, sorry, superstar, all-star, you're hurt. We got to wipe you off the roster so we can actually have these on, on the bench. That's the decision that these teams have to make to be compliant to the salary cap. So that's going to be an interesting wrinkle. And I again, Kathy, for me, there's two mega strikes. First was Stewie-ish, and the second is the CBA. Twice she's done something that the CBA has explicitly said cannot be done, and that has been critiqued, criticized, and heavily enforced and fined. And then she did it just because she could. So she sets a dangerous precedent. And if I, again, were a part of a union, effectively, right? If I were a part of a union, I would scream to the high heavens, hell no, we will not go with this unless you put an addendum in the CBA. And since you set that precedent, how do you select when you wave your magic wand? And hello? And if you can wave this magic wand and pay Stewie, what was that? 2018? 17?
I think
19, 20.
19, I think.
19? Was it 19?
I think 19 was the I think 19 was the Achilles.
Yeah, 18 or 19 probably, because 17 would have been her.
18 she won the championship.
17 was her second. So it was 19. Okay. So, like, you found money to pay Stewie in 2019. You found money for charters in 2024. While all that time, you and your little crony, Adam Silver, have been telling people that the WNBA ain't got no money. Riddle me this, riddle me that. How you ain't got no money, and then you making unprecedented deals?
Crazy.
What are you talking about?
Crazy how the league can certainly accommodate needs for like 2 white players, huh? But you have like a black player who has been receiving death threats, and you just like, she was gonna pay her own security. I will never get over that. They said that like Brittany Griner's team, even like, we're going to pay for our own private jet. They were like, nope, the CBA does not allow you. And then like, I like
it just like make it make sense. There's so many little things here, and I'm like, but that's why I have my own platform and I can talk about these things when other people tell me, oh, we're not really gonna address that. Well, we'll address it here at Black Rosie Media, because I need to know. I need answers. The Unrivaled, if your contract is suspended, Unrivaled pays it. I mean, Unrivaled is setting a totally different precedent in so many ways, and there are a lot of things that need to be sorted on that end. Well, I mean, we talked about the first 2 picks. We didn't quite get through the whole draft board.
I mean, it does help that one of our podcasts is about the team that has a second pick, so people think right off our back.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the conversation was great. We always appreciate y'all who come on live with us, because, like, again, we like to have fun. Ghost was getting off all these jokes today. Like, you are hilarious, and you pissed me off, sir. Thank you very much. Or person, I'm sorry, I don't know how you identify, but you okay? Watch yourself. No, but we appreciate y'all. Y'all throw so many good comments, and we usually save them for the fourth quarter, but with something like this, we just want to keep the conversation open. Listen, thank you, Moni.
That ghost comment.
I know. That's the second one, Ghost. I saw the first time too. Listen. Well, she coming to New York now, so she can do what she wants. That's all I gotta say about that. I mean, she was in Phoenix too. Arizona's cool too. So anyway, it's all good. We appreciate y'all hopping on here again. I think this is going to be a really gritty draft class. I think that there's potential for Anissa Morrow. I think is probably not being talked about enough, but that's a player who really has potential to be like for me, this class is going to be players that can build a career in the way that Kayla Thornton has built a career, in, you know, the way that Glory Johnson at one point built her career. That's exactly who I was thinking about earlier. Glory went off on some of that stuff with Stewie. But anyway, you know, I think this is going to be interesting. And, you know, we're going to talk about it, obviously, how it impacts the New York Liberty. That's going to be a very short conversation Brian and I will have. But more so, of course, how it impacts the Seattle Storm. So Roberta and I will have a very long, you know what, Brian, we might as well just bring you on to Tempestagi talk. That's how we'll do it.
I'll put it.
That's how we'll do it. But soon we're gonna have W season. As Brian mentioned earlier, we've got training camps coming up, and that means that you will get our shows weekly. We're not gonna be on our every other week tip, so that's gonna be exciting as well. But let's go around the horn because I know Roberta, you've started writing with Forbes and have some things going. Brian, I want to give you also a chance to shout out what draft coverage in the next few days will look like for you. So Roberta, let us know where can we find your coverage?
Yeah, so I have my own outlet, Bet the Basket, and I'm also writing for Forbes, plus here at doing the podcast at Black Rosie Media. So definitely gonna be covering the draft tomorrow for Forbes, and I want to do some writing for Bet the Basket too, which I hadn't had a chance because I started a new job and a new day job, and this week I worked 50 hours, so doing my best. But yeah, I'm very excited to. I'm so excited for the season to start again because I'm gonna be able to write so much more.
They do.
And just on May 1st, I'm going to be in Baton Rouge for the Brazil game against the Chicago Sky. They're also playing the Indiana Fever in Iowa, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to Iowa. So I'll be in Baton Rouge. And yeah, it's going to be really fun to cover the Brazilian national team playing the Chicago Sky. I'm going to, and then I'm coming back on the 3rd of May, and then the 4th, there's the Storm preseason game, which I will be there. I'll be bringing some content for Black Media.
Oh, so is Pokey gonna be?
No.
Okay, that was
just like Camila and Damiris can't play for Brazil. Pokey can't coach for Brazil because they are under contract with WNBA teams, and it's a WNBA preseason game.
Yeah, because they're in contract, so that makes sense. I was like, wait, what? So it's kind of like when Dawn Staley was the USA coach, but also at South Carolina. Got it. All right, cool. Well, we can't wait. I'm glad you're gonna get to that game. That's gonna be awesome. And so we will definitely keep our finger on the pulse. Obviously, Bet a Basket is gonna have a lot of that coverage, and for Forbes as well. All right, Brian, you're up. And I think what Ghost means is that he's going to sponsor your lighting.
Yeah,
that's how I'm reading this.
Have I been in the shadows this whole time?
Ghost has been like on one. Yeah, don't worry about it. Listen, this light is terrible for me right now. I hate it. But okay, Brian, let the folks know where they can find your work.
Sure. I'm gonna be on hand at the draft tomorrow night in Manhattan. Hudson Yards is a very hilarious institution if you live in New York City.
Yeah, so, it's very strange. Like the vessel. What? Why?
Yeah,
why did we do that?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff there, but it's gonna be exciting. Like for media, we'll have a lot more room to work with. Oh my gosh.
And hopefully air conditioning. Oh my gosh, it was so hot. Back of house was so hot at BAM. It was beautiful, and I don't know.
Yeah.
The shadow knows. I just came on to say that. Okay. Sorry, Brian. Continue.
Yeah, so I'll be on site tomorrow. The draft will be the centerpiece of the upcoming edition of the Women's Basketball Roundup. I'll be doing some stuff for local W as well too, as far as like video and photos and things like that on hand, and then just gearing up. Like it's gonna be light for the Liberty, so it'll be just a lot of like a bigger picture kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to it. It's my second time at the draft. Matter of fact, yeah, second time at the draft. So I'm really excited. Like it's gonna be really cool. Like it's gonna be good to see all my media friends who I haven't seen in a while. Yes. So it's gonna be exciting.
And I'm gonna spoil or if you don't want to know what the media gift is, Brian, you can just close your eyes. But
Okay, hold on. Let me
okay.
disappear.
Here's the media gift this year.
Nice.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Isn't that what Brian is wearing? Is it different?
No, and now you spoiled it for him.
Oh.
We're so bad at this game. Yes, it is another Player Society shirt. So don't wear one tomorrow, Brian, because you're gonna get one.
I am one thing about me. I am a big proponent of free food and free merchandise. So they hooking me up
all day.
like,
I mean, I need to I've been to a few drafts now, and I gotta say, some of the gifts have been pretty boss. We might have to do something fun where I think I have most of them, not all of them, but I still have most of them. But as for me, I will also be at the draft, so we might have to link up, Brian and I, somewhere where I can stand on a pedestal so the camera angle don't look crazy on me. But that brother is tall, and I am not. But I will be working with Tarika Foster Brasby. She and I will be doing coverage for CBS Sports HQ in particular. So we're going to have some live hits that we'll be doing prior to the draft and immediately following the draft. We also, I actually don't know if this is announced, but I also don't think it's a secret either. Renee Montgomery and also Ashley Nicole Moss have specific reactions to certain picks that they'll be doing. That'll be a part of our CBS coverage. There you go. I knew we were getting a sponsor. I knew we were getting a sponsor. There we go, Brian. We got your lights. We got your lights set up. Listen, the draft is right by B&H, so we're going to have to make a Black Rosie media trip.
Oh man, I'm so jealous that I'm not in New York.
I know. We'll link up though. Thank you for the super chat, Ghost. Thank you so much. But so most of my coverage will be with CBS Sports, but as Brian mentioned, the women's basketball roundup will be very draft heavy, reacting, things of that nature. And so we can't wait to get back on the microphone and do a recap to the draft. But for Roberta and Brian, of course, I'm Erica, your head Black Rosie in charge. Thank you for spending some time with us, getting off these jokes in the comments, asking some great questions. Damien's also always here with great questions about the New York Liberty. Moni here as well. Ronnie, thank you so much. Aloysius, we saw you pop in, getting ready for work. We appreciate y'all so much. Anyone else that I missed? I know we had some people pop in, so just thank you. Amber, thank you for popping in. You didn't miss the draft. It's tomorrow, so don't worry about that. But we will have you covered post-draft here at Black Rosie Media. So y'all have a good night. Roberta, keep getting those fluids. Make sure that you are good to go because we don't want you to be sick come next month. And you know it. We've got our Liberty fans. It's time to wave. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone.